Hey folks, welcome back to the Leeds Gamer. I just thought I'd have a look and see how many points the teams in the Premier League need to reach the magic number of 40. 40 is seen as the bare minimum that teams need to stay up. Certainly apart from maybe the last two seasons at least anyway. And every team in the Premier League at this moment in time, apart from Arsenal and Brentford, who I believe play tonight, have played 26 games out of 38 so far. So I thought I'd take a look at it all and see what teams need to do to get to 40. We'll start at the bottom because it's very easy to just simply write off Wolverhampton Wanderers and Burnley. There's not a chance in hell that Wolves get it. And for Burnley to get to 40, they would have to more than double what they currently have, and that ain't going to happen either. So you can write both of those off straight away. West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Tottenham Hotspur all currently possess less than 30 points. So the task for them is particularly difficult. Then you got my team Leeds, who currently have 30. So they've got a chance. Brighton are only 1 point ahead of Leeds. Palace only 2 points. Fulham only 4 points. And then you'd have to suspect that the teams above Fulham, while you can never say definitely, you can say most probably likely. So when you look at all this, as easily as I can write off the bottom two, I will also only mention very briefly the teams from 7th down to 11th. So Brentford just need a point. They'll obviously get that. They might not get it tonight against Arsenal, but they'll get it. Everton only need one more win, as do Bournemouth. And I think the chances are is that both of those will get it. Bournemouth have picked their form up again after having a bit of a dodgy spell and are currently without loss in their last 5. So they're looking pretty good. Everton, their form slightly worse with 1 loss in the last 5, but 2 wins and 2 draws, still solid enough. So you'd expect that Everton and Bournemouth will get their win, if you like, because they can do it in just with just 1 win. They'll get that within the next couple of games, you would suspect. Then you got 2 teams on 36. These being almost a bit of a local rivalry between themselves, with Newcastle United and Sunderland. Both of those on 36, but both of them not in amazing form. You've got Sunderland, who have got 2 wins and 3 losses in the last 5. They play Fulham. That could be a very close game, I think. If I was to put any prediction on it, I'd probably say a draw. And then Newcastle, there's every chance they're going to lose their next matches against Manchester City. And the problem for Newcastle is that they have also lost 3 of the last 5. But unlike Sunderland, who have 2 wins, Newcastle only have 1 win and 1 draw. The form is not great by any stretch of the imagination. Just touching on form as well, when you look at all the losses, I've just noticed that Brentford actually have 3 wins in the last 5, but they also have 2 losses, and chances are they've every chance of losing their next match. So Brentford's form over the last 5 could read as just 2 wins and 3 losses, which is not amazing, enough for a team that's comfortably in the top half at this moment in time. But again, I don't think they get dragged into any kind of problems. They're just simply too close to the 40-point mark. Going back down to where we were there, so yeah, I think there's every chance that I would probably say that within the next maybe 2, 3, maximum 4 games, you would expect Newcastle and Sunderland to reach that 40-point mark. So you could probably write those off as well. Let's move on to Fulham. So Fulham have had a bit of a strange season in the sense that for the most part they either win or lose. They've only drawn 4 times, but currently possess 10 wins and 12 losses. They score quite a bit, with 35 goals scored in 26. Excuse me. But they also concede quite a bit, having conceded 40 goals. They currently have a -5 goal difference and 34 points on the board. They need 6 points to be able to reach 40. But look at their form. It's only 1 win in their last 5 with 4 losses. That is not great reading for Fulham fans right now. So, could Fulham get dragged into this? I would say for the most part, probably not, but they don't get many draws. So, on the premise that they seem to lose slightly more than they win, and certainly in the recent form guide, that they've only won 1 in the last 5 and have coupled that with 4 losses. Their next match is against Sunderland, who are only 1 place above them. I was just thinking a minute ago that they could possibly draw that match. I'm not so certain. While Sunderland do draw quite a few, Fulham don't. So that could be an interesting match. Do I think that Fulham will reach 40? I think probably. They only need 6 points. It's only 2 wins out of 12 matches. That's still quite a bit of football to be played. So just on the basis that they only need 2 more wins. That's doable, isn't it? You would think. Gotta be, surely. So then you've got Crystal Palace, who were previously on really bad form, and have picked it up slightly, albeit the last match was dreadful, with a 3-2 loss against Burnley, who hadn't won. I think Burnley hadn't won in something like 16 games, which is a horrendous record at any point in a season. So Crystal Palace, it's so toxic at Selhurst Park right now. You've got a manager who's already confirmed he's leaving at the end of the season. They lost their best defender in January, in Gueye. They very nearly lost their main striker, but ironically ended up adding an extra striker to their ranks. So they kept Mateta, but also bought the services of Strand Larsen, who ironically scored 2 goals against Burnley. So, with all of this, Crystal Palace are on 32 points. Very hard to predict. A little bit like Sunderland in a way, because they're very even across the board in terms of wins, draws and losses. So, with Crystal Palace currently having 8 wins, 8 draws and 10 losses, the bad form has resulted in that losses column being bigger than the other 2. But again, they don't score a lot, they don't concede a great deal either, hence why it's quite close in that department. 32 points, they need another 8 to get to 40. I think they'll scrape it, but I'm saying scrape it because their form is not amazing. but it might, they might just be doing enough. As you can see there, they've had a win and a draw before that Burnley loss. So, that those extra 4 points there have kind of propelled Crystal Palace from being a team that looked like they were probably going to go down to a team who might actually get to that 40-point mark and might actually survive reasonably comfortably, just based on how many teams are currently below them. Talking of teams below them, Brighton. Interesting stats for them at the moment. 7 wins, 10 draws, so they do draw a lot. 9 losses. They've scored and conceded the exact amount of 34 goals. So a neutral 0 goal difference. Which could be important come the end of the season. The better the goal difference, it's like having an extra point. But Brighton's form is terrible. Look at this. No wins in the last 5, only 2 draws and 3 losses. Their next match is against Brentford, who are currently having a pretty good season. So, can Brighton be dragged into this relegation battle? I think there's every possibility. Do I think they're going to get relegated? I would say no. Do I think they can reach 40? Yeah. But they need 9 points out of the last 12 games. It's a fairly sizable haul that they need, but they've got Milner, who's 1 game away from being the new record holder in terms of appearance makers in the Premier League. They've got Ursula, who's the youngest manager in the league. They've got a very good owner in Tony Bloom, professional poker player. I just don't think that Brighton get dragged into any kind of problems here. You can't write it off completely. It's very poor form. Obviously no transfers can be made now unless you bring in a free. I don't see Brighton doing that. So, yeah, I don't think they get dragged into it, but you can't rule it out. And the reason that you can't rule it out is that some of the teams below Brighton are currently in very decent form. I'm going to come back to my team leads. I'm going to leave my team leads until last. And I'll kind of explain a little bit as we go along as to why. So, I'm also going to leave Tottenham for a moment. And again, I'll explain why. So moving on to Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest are currently just 1 place above the relegation zone. Nottingham Forest have just sacked their manager, Sean Dyche, who in the past has been quite decent at keeping teams up, despite limited resources. Whereas at Forest he's had decent resources because Marinakis has allowed him to spend a lot of money. But ultimately, Forest are currently on 7 wins, 6 draws, 13 losses. So they've lost half of their games this season. It's not great. They don't score a lot. Now this is partially down to the injury to Chris Wood, but Chris Wood is as decent as he still is an ageing striker. I think he's like 34 now. So Forest, they brought in Igor Jesus and he's been okay without being spectacular. I think that's the guy they've got up front, if memory serves me right. Maybe I'm wrong with that, I don't know. Can't remember. But they don't score a lot. They score less than a goal a game, which is quite disturbing. They've only got 25 in goals scored in 26 games and they've conceded 38. The concessionary is not terrible, so they are relying on a reasonable defence, but it's not an amazing defence. So they're on a minus 13 as things currently stand and on 27 points. However, look at that form guide. It's not disastrous by any stretch of the imagination. there's only one win there, but there's only one loss there as well. They've coupled all of that with 3 draws. So for a team that's that close to the relegation zone, they're not in the worst shape in the world. But the biggest concern for Nottingham Forest is that West Ham United are also in decent form right now. West Ham are currently in the relegation zone. They've got 6 wins and 6 draws, 14 losses, which is obviously very bad. But they score more than a goal a game. They've scored 32, but their defence is pretty bad. They've conceded 49 goals, and that negative goal difference of -17 is not going to come down anytime soon. They're on 24 points, which from a points point of view is not that bad in terms of how close they are to Nottingham Forest. And the form guide is decent for West Ham. They've currently got 3 wins, 1 draw and only 1 loss in the last 5. West Ham currently are trending up in terms of the form guide, and there are some teams not that far above them that are in really bad form right now. So this is the reason why I've left it quite late to talk about Tottenham and Leeds. So starting with Spurs. Tottenham Hotspur have just sacked Thomas Frank. In 26 games, they have only won 7 and drawn 8, lost 11. They score alright. You know, they scored 36 goals. They've conceded 37. So -1 goal difference and a 29 points. But look at that form. Loss, draw, draw, loss, loss. I am not convinced whatsoever that Tottenham Hotspur are going to score another 11 points to reach 40. I don't see it. Their next fixture is against Arsenal. They might get up for it with the London derby, but again, I just don't see it. I think Arsenal will be too strong for them. And in this kind of circumstance, with Nottingham Forest and West Ham's form being quite good, and Tottenham's not, I'm going to stick my neck out here. At this particular stage, unless anything changes dramatically in terms of form, I think Tottenham Hotspur will be relegated. I'm putting it out here now. I think that based on current form of all the teams in the bottom half, Tottenham Hotspur are in free fall. Even Burnley have a win in their last 5. Tottenham don't. Brighton don't. Which is why I said that they're not out of this yet. If Brighton don't change their form soon, they could get dragged into this relegation battle. And they've only got 2 more points than Tottenham have right now. So moving on to my team, Leeds. 26 games played, 7 wins, 9 draws, 10 losses. Again, Leeds score quite well, with 36 goals scored in 26 games. The conceding is bad. There's no shying away from that. However, if I put this in context, 9 of those 45 goals conceded came in a combination of the 2 matches against Arsenal. You take that 9 away, then all of a sudden we've conceded 36 and scored 36, and in that situation then you've got a neutral 0 goal difference. So in the scheme of things, outside of Arsenal, we don't concede a dramatic number of goals without at least scoring some. Again, we conceded 2 against Chelsea, but what did we do in reply? We scored 2. So it didn't negatively affect the goal difference as far as that match was concerned. So from Leeds' point of view, they need 10 more points to reach 40. Do I think they can do it? I think so. Look at Leeds' form. It's quite good. Win, draw, loss, win, draw. It's not bad. Not bad at all. The next match is against Aston Villa, whose recent form is not amazing. But Aston Villa will be an extremely tough game because they're near the top of the league. But I think Leeds can give them a game. If we can give Chelsea a game, I think we can give Villa a game. I think that Leeds, with them only needing one more draw and 3 wins, Leeds still have to play Burnley and Wolves at Elland Road, and Sunderland, whose away form is not great. I think that's where Leeds' 3 wins come from. And in terms of the draw, I mean, if we can get a draw away at Chelsea, I think we can get a draw away almost anywhere at the minute. So I think Leeds will reach the 40 without any real problems, as long as we win the games that we should be winning, which is obviously the Burnley and Wolves home games. And again, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, we really should be beating Sunderland, despite Sunderland being as high as 11th. Sunderland I think they've only won 2 games away from home all season, so their away form's not amazing. I mean, even if the Sunderland match ends in a draw, I don't think it's a disaster for Leeds, and I think that we can probably still get that 3rd win from somewhere. So, where do I think everyone's going to finish? In terms of those that I think that'll reach 40 points, I'm going to say that potentially, at least, everyone from Leeds above can and probably will. I think it might, even though the form of Nottingham Forest and West Ham is decent right now, and in West Ham's case very decent, I just think the number of points that they are behind the 40-point mark is just a bit too much. Especially West Ham. That's a lot of points they need. But again, the form is good. But is it too little too late? I think it might be. So I think West Ham might just fall a little short. Nottingham Forest, again, they're 3 points better off, so they're 3 points closer to 40. I don't think Forest are going to get it either. Again, I just think 13 points, it's just a little too much. I don't think Tottenham get it on the basis that their form is terrible, and they're going to have to get it They're going to have to get 11 points in 11 matches potentially, because I don't think they're going to get anything against Arsenal. It's a point per game for a team that's really in dodgy form. I don't see it. I don't see it myself. And as I say, I think Tottenham are going to get relegated. I think that West Ham and Forest will go above Tottenham. So I think, based on current form, I think that Wolves will finish 20th. I think the gap between them and Burnley is just too big now, and it's a 9-point gap. So I think Wolves will finish 20th. I think Burnley will finish 19th. I don't see Burnley catching the teams above. Again, the gap's just too big. You're looking at 8 points currently. That's too much. I think Tottenham finish 18th. I'm going to say that Nottingham Forest finish 17th. I think West Ham might just surpass them, and I think that West Ham might get 16th. Then it's close. You see, I think Leeds can pop up a couple more places, because the fixture list for Leeds in the last 10 or so games, once we get these next 2 out of the way, which are on paper extremely difficult, I think the remaining final 10 games of the season are quite favourable for Leeds. I could see Leeds going up a few places here. I really could. I know it sounds biased because I am a Leeds fan, but we've got one of the most favourable run-ins out of anyone in the bottom half. Tottenham's running is really bad, actually. From what I remember, I think I saw it recently that Tottenham's running is really difficult. And I mean, it don't get much harder than Arsenal right now, does it? You know, and that's who they play next. I'm not sure how high to place Leeds, because I think Leeds could. I don't think they're just going to get 40 points. I think they could get a lot more. I mean, how many points are available? Obviously, like you've got 12 games, haven't you? So 36 points. I mean, would it be feasible for Leeds to actually double their current points tally? I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's realistic at all. But could Leeds maybe push to 50 points? As I say, I don't think they'll get 60. I mean, that'd be a phenomenal season if we did. But that would mean that we can only drop points in 2 of the final 12 games, which I don't see it. I really do not see that at all. I think that's unrealistic. Do I think that Leeds will reach 40? I think we'll get 40 quite comfortably, because with a favourable run-in and only needing 1 draw and 3 wins, that's only 4 games out of the 12. Yeah, I see that being quite doable. So as I say, I think that West Ham, I think that both West Ham and Nottingham Forest finish above Tottenham. I think that West Ham finish above Nottingham. I don't see Leeds finishing any lower than 15th, if I'm honest, because of the running that we've got. Once we get the next 2 games out of the way, we might drop a couple of places again in the next couple of games, especially if we lose them both. But then after that, I think we start propelling ourselves back up again, as long as the team don't drop too much confidence. I think it'd be close between Brighton and Palace, because I mean both of those are supposedly rivals anyway. And then Fulham. Do Fulham get dragged into it? It's only 1 win in the last 5. Surely it's unrealistic to think that Fulham are still in a relegation battle here. Same with Sunderland as well, and Newcastle for that matter, on the same points. I just don't see it. As I say, I see Newcastle and Sunderland reaching 40. I see obviously everyone above them reaching 40, and I think Fulham probably will as well. So I don't see them getting dragged into it. I think that it's anyone from Palace down who they're not safe yet. So then you look at form. And at the moment, Leeds are one of the better form teams in the bottom half. They really are. You only have to look at that as it stands right now. And as I say, if we get these next 2 games out of the way and we don't get hammered by either of them, you know, I could see us doing alright. So I think I honestly believe that Leeds won't finish any lower than 15th if we keep the form up. Because the form of Palace and Brighton is not great. So I think we can get ahead of both of them, potentially. And as I say, I think Tottenham are just dropping like a stone. So I think they go down. So I'm going to leave it there, folks. Let me know your thoughts on it. Who do you think is getting relegated along with Wolves and Burnley? I've got my thoughts on it being Tottenham Hotspur. No club is too big or too good to go down. If you don't accumulate enough points, you're down. Leeds have proven it in the past. Newcastle's proven it in the past. West Ham have proven it in the past. Even Aston Villa, who are currently about 3rd in the league, have proved it in the past. There's a lot of teams in this division who have been in the Championship before. I think there's only 6 teams who haven't. and Tottenham's one of them. But I think Tottenham are going down. I think Tottenham will discover the Championship for the first time in the history that the Premier League has existed. I really do. So yeah, I'll leave it there, folks. Do please give the video a like and a hype. Do please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Got a couple of live streams that I'm hoping to do within the next week. Got a couple of games that I would like to play. One of them being completely new. I've never streamed it before. Yeah, should be good. So yep. Big thank you for watching. Big thank you for all the support as always. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.